Good day. Hello, ma'am. This is my presentation about 12 principles of animation and 2D animation. First, let's start with 12 principles of animation. According to James Ritchie, in their 1981 book, The Illusion of Life, Disney animators Ollie Johnston and Frank Thomas introduced the 12 principles of animation. The pair were part of Disney's Nine Old Men, the core group of animators who were instrumental in creating Disney's animation style. The 12 principles have now become widely recognized as a theoretical bedrock for all artists working on animated video production. That's according to James Ritchie. So, let's go to first principle of animation. Squash and stretch. Squash and stretch is debatably the most fundamental principle. Look at what happens when a ball hits the ground. Look at this picture. The force of the motion squashes the ball flat, but because an object needs to maintain its volume, it also widens on impact. Just like this one. There. That this is what's called squash and stretch. This effect gives animation an elastic life-like quality because although it may not seem like it, squash and stretch is all around you. All shapes are distorted in some way or another. When acted upon by an outside force, it's just harder to see in real life. Squash and stretch imitates and exaggerates it to create some fun. The second principle is anticipation. Imagine you're about to kick a soccer ball. What's the first thing you do? Do you swing your foot back to wind up? Steady yourself with your arms? That's anticipation. Anticipation. Anticipation is the preparation for the main action. Just like this. This diagram shows that the animated cartoon is about to get jumped here, and that's the anticipation about. The third principle is tagging. When filming a scene, where do you put the camera? Where do the actors go? What do you have them do? The combination of all these choices is what we call staging. Staging is one of the most overlooked principles. It directs the audience's attention toward the most important elements in a scene in a way that effectively advances the story. Just like that. That is staging. The fourth principle is straight ahead, action, and pose to pose. These are two ways of drawing animation. Straight ahead action is where you draw each frame of an action one after another as you go along. It's like that. Straight ahead straight ahead and pose to pose, and then straight ahead again. The fifth principle is follow through and overlapping. When a moving object such as a person comes to a stop parts, might continue to move the same direction because of the force of forward momentum. Like for example, when you're driving a car, uh, and when you're in a constant speed, like for example, your current speed like 60 miles an hour, and then you want to stop, there's a momentum. You can just stop right through it, just like this. This is the momentum of the spring on the forehead of this cartoon animated. The fifth one is ease in, ease out. When you start your car, you don't get up to 60 miles per hour right away. This is the opposite part or opposite principle of the other of follow through and overlapping action. It takes a while to accelerate and reach a steady speed. In animation speak, we call this an ease out. Likewise, if you brake, you're not going to come to a full stop right away. You step on the pedal and accelerate for over a few seconds until you're at a standstill. Animators call this an ease in. The, Now let's go to arcs. Arcs. Life doesn't move in straight lines, and neither should animation. Most living beings, including humans, move in circular paths called arcs. It's like this. Secondary action. Secondary actions are gestures that support the main action to add more dimension to character animation. They can give more personality and insight to what the character is doing or thinking. It's like that. Timing. Timing's about where on a timeline you put each frame of action. To see what this means in action, let's look at the classic animation exercise. The bouncing ball that we saw earlier when we were talking about squash and stretch. This part is the squash and stretch. And when you bounce the ball, this part is the timing. And then bounce it back again. That is timing. Exaggeration. Sometimes more is more. Exaggeration represents a character's feature and action in an extreme form of comedic or dramatic effect. This can include distortions in facial features, body types, and expressions, but also the character's movement. Exaggeration is a great way for an animator to increase the appeal of a character and enhance the storytelling. It's like that. This part is the exaggeration animate. Solid drawing. Sometimes, okay, that's the solid drawing. Appeal. People remember real, interesting, and engaging characters. Animated characters should be pleasing to look at and have a charismatic appeal. Charismatic aspect to them. This even applies to the antagonist of the story. That's the appeal. See? That's the 12 principles of animation. Now let's go to 2D animation. First, what is 2D animation? Two-dimensional or 2D animation is characterized by having its object and characters created in the two-dimensional space. It means that they only have width and height. It considered a traditional animation style known from the 1800s. Initially, it was created by pulling together frames in which one drawing was followed by another one which is slightly different from it. Every second included 24 frames. We all remember the classic Disney animations, right? Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Bambi, The Little Mermaid, and so on. They are some of the most popular 2D animations. With the development of computer technologies, this process was also digitized through various animation software with the option of drawing the characters and backgrounds directly into the computer and animating them. This is an example of 2D animation. Now, pre-production. The pre-production process is the first stage of creating animations. During this stage, the animation team develops the story and writes the script of the animation, designs the characters, create a storyboard, choose the color palettes, palettes, prepares the backgrounds, and records the voiceover. This is a preparation stage for the main process, so it needs to be properly done. It's like this. The next step is creating the characters, outlining the backgrounds, and preparing other visual elements of the animation. Now, let's go to production. Production is the process of creating the animation by gathering all the created materials together and producing the scene. This includes the painting, creating the individual scenes, and create character activities, making the rough animation, cleaning up the animation, coloring and painting the drawings with the help of computer software, compositing, and export. Post-production. Post-production is the final editing process of 2D animation. During this phase, the animation is enhanced with additional sound effects or recordings, which increases the emotional impact of the animation. Now, that's my presentation about 12 principles animation and 2D animation. Thank you for listening, ma'am.